Afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another week of the business focused podcast that is Revitalise Meets, where I get the opportunity, the privilege to meet many business connections, not just locally, but globally, really delving into finding out more about them, what makes them tick, how we can help each other, and discovering many opportunities in the conversation. Now, this week, I've got the great pleasure to be welcoming along a great connection. I've known this gentleman for many, many years, and he's been helping many people, not just locally, but globally as well. He's been helping them, coach them in the right direction to take their business to the next level, to even take themselves to the next level. He's an award-winning, best-selling author and a phenomenal coach to go to hat. Can you please welcome with me today the superhuman man himself, the superhuman in you, the one and only Mr. Anurag Rai. Anurag, how are you today?
I'm very well, Lee. It's a pleasure to be here.
Uh,
Thank you for that fantastic introduction.
I do try my best on many occasions to really raise you up on the soapboxes, etc. as well. Anurag, I've known you for a while now, and you've been helping loads of people with what you do generally every single day in your business. And it's great to welcome you along to Revitalise Meets to really take a deeper dive into where you are at the moment. Can we start off, first of all, by sharing where it all began and where you are right now with your business journey? Would you mind sharing that with everybody who's watching us on LinkedIn and YouTube?
Yes. So I got interested into being an entrepreneur. I think at a very young age. When I was 13 years old, I set up my first business in with my brother with kind of 100 rupees. So that's £1 was the starting capital. and what we did was we bought. So at that time it was called WWF, not World Wrestling Federation, and not WWE. It got changed later on. So we used to visit my grandparents, and basically their city where they used to live was a bigger city than our city. So we'd visit them in summer. We'll go there and we'll buy these WWF stickers. We'll come back and then we'll sell these stickers at a margin in the school. We started with 100 rupees, and which is £1, and we built it like in the next 6 months or something. From £1, we made it to like just over £100 before we got caught. So my parents found out that we were doing it, and obviously they did not like. They were like, you should be focusing on studies at this age. So that business got like closed there and then. But from the very early age, I was interested in business. So as soon as I finished, like became a legal age to travel, I told my family that I want to travel abroad, because I knew if I was in India, there will be limitations to what I can do, how much risk I can take. So I said, I want to go to UK. Well, before even traveling abroad, the goal was I loved cooking, and I one of our family members had a restaurant, so I wanted to open a restaurant. So I went to Google and did my research and found out British people love Indian curries. So I thought, okay, well, UK could be one thing. And then I did some research. I don't know how true it is, but I found out that the Scottish people are more friendly than the rest of the UK. So I said, okay, I'll go to Scotland. So capital city, Edinburgh, that's where I came. Managed to get some funds and enough for me to come here. But what that meant was that I came to Edinburgh in 2005 with £100, with an ambition to open my restaurant business. And obviously, soon I realized that £100 was not enough to open a restaurant business here. So I remember that afternoon very clearly. Still today, in 2005, I just dropped my bag on the sofa that I was renting in a student accommodation, and I left. Just started looking for jobs straight away. Within a week, I was fortunate enough. I found a job. My first job was a crew member as in McDonald's, and from there on, I worked really hard because I think the reason why I was able to do that, which we'll come to later, is because I was very clear about my why. It was like the picture was there. I am running a restaurant. So I continued working hard towards it. The goal was to gain enough experience of working in food industry and here in this country, and also understand the culture and everything else, but also save the money to for that initial capital.
Mm.
Because I come from a humble family background, so I realized that there won't be any support from back there. 6 months, 6 years, I worked hard, changed jobs very quickly as well. And again, the reason for that being every time I would go uh, into a new place, I was on a senior management level, soon got promoted to be at senior management level. And when I go into a new organization, they would send me into some sort of leadership training, which again helped me learn new things.
Mm.
My last job was in food industry. I was ops director for a company who owns restaurants and in train stations and airports. In 2011, I managed to save enough money to open my restaurant business, and that's what we did. We opened a restaurant business in Edinburgh, which went on to be a huge success. Within 6 months, we had 10 staff working for me, and yeah, things were doing great. I was thinking about buying my next restaurant, and then a series of events happened within a week that kind of forced me from uh, being at the peak of my career to kind of having no place to stay. So
Mm.
back to where I started. And I'll tell you briefly what happened. So one afternoon, one of my chefs came to me with tears in his eyes, and he said that his mom's not well, so he need to travel back to his country. And obviously, he's been working with me for last 6 months, so no need reason to not trust him. So I said, okay, if you have to go, you got to go. Then he said he needed some money to buy the tickets. He needed some money to pay the hospital bills. So I gave him any personal money I had. In the evening, CID comes in the restaurant, Crime Investigation Department, and they were looking for this guy. So I knew, okay, this guy is not coming back, and obviously used my money to run away from the country. He's done something shady. Could not sleep that night, but I knew that I have to focus on running the restaurant because at that time I was on visa, and my visa was based on the restaurant. So running the restaurant was key. I continued running the restaurant. 2 days later, I go to deposit the last few days of cash takings into the bank. And I realized that this guy also managed to take my checkbook, forge my signatures, and take all the money out from the bank account. So no, I have no money on me, no money in the bank. And the bank people said that even if I came like a day before, maybe they could have done something, but no, they can't do anything. It's gone. Wasn't covered with insurance. And yeah, very difficult position to be in. No, I can smile and talk about that story because obviously, in the hindsight, I know how much I learned from it, how much I grew from it. But at that time, it was really, really difficult.
Mm.
No, I still wanted to continue running the restaurant. Not sure where I'm going to pay the wages or the suppliers, but I wanted to keep the restaurant going. A couple of days go by, and a lady from the council, environmental health department, they visit the restaurant. And it happens that she comes in the same week. We were a new restaurant, so we were due an inspection anyways, but just unfortunate that she came in the same week.
Mm.
She comes in, she does an inspection, and she realizes the way the wiring was done in the restaurant was as per the old standards. So
Oh,
she
no.
said, you got to close, it's not safe anymore. You get the work done and then you can open. Now, usually it would be okay because I would have the money to get the work done. But no, I don't have money.
Mm.
So I'm stuck. And obviously, coming from a different country, I did not have a lot of friends who could help me or who I could go to. And there was this resistance as well for like asking for help, because you kind of, if you ask for help, you're basically saying I failed. So that's the kind of thoughts that was going in my head. Plus, also at this point, I was thinking that yeah, I must have upset somebody up there. Like something is conspiring against me. I must have done something
Yeah.
terribly bad to deserve this. But what I soon realized is, yeah, I will have to make some serious decisions. And just when I thought things could not get any worse, something else happened. So
Mm.
somebody must have noticed that the restaurant is shut. And because we were having issues with the bank, I was not depositing any money in the bank. I was keeping some the cash in the till. But somebody broke in and they took all the cash. And that's when it felt like, you are in a kickboxing match, and you knocked out, and somebody comes and kicks you again. That's the feeling I can still remember. Uh, and at this time, I was thinking, okay, maybe this is over. I had no money to pay the rent, so I had to leave my flat. But I was still holding on to the keys of the restaurant, because that's the last thing I was willing to let go, because that meant that I have to go back. So I moved into the storeroom of my restaurant, which was a cold and dark place because council cut the supply. Yeah. And I spent 4 nights there asking myself this question: why did this happen to me? I was a big believer in karma. You do good things happen. You do bad things happen.
Mm.
So I must have done something terribly bad to deserve this.
Mm.
But what I realize now is that our answers are only as good as our questions. So when I'm asking why me, why me, why me, everything that I think I've done bad in my life is going through in my head, like on repeat. And what that did was it put me into lower emotional states. It put me into guilt, shame, and everything else. Um, Thankfully for me, on the fifth day, the thought changed, the question changed. So instead of why me, why me, why me, this time the question was, why not me? When bad things can happen to small kids in war zone countries, surely they haven't done any bad karma. Then why not me? And just that shift in thinking took me, and that's when I first realized the power of our thoughts.
Mm.
The shift in thinking took me from feeling guilty, shameful, sad, depressed, to being grateful in a way that I could have been that small kid in a war zone country. My
Yeah,
situation was still better than that.
very
And
true.
and that realization gave me the strength
Mm.
to to understand that, like, stop blaming me, and know that maybe it's not about good karma, bad karma. Things just
Mm.
happen. It's what we do about it.
Mhm.
And on that night, I created a philosophy to live the rest of my life, and which is also the foundation of my coaching just now. And
Mm.
that is, life is like a game that we don't get to control. Sooner we accept it, better we play. And while we cannot control the game, we can all become a bad player.
Love that.
So yeah, and that's when I got the courage to ask for help. Had to ask few people, and then finally managed to get the money to get the work done. Got the restaurant back up and running again. We're soon in well, it took a year and a half. I had to do night job while running the restaurant during the day. Hard work. Had to get the team on board as well, but we did it. Year and a half, we were back in profit, and things would turn around. In 2014, another shift happened when my son was born. And when he was born, I realized, okay, I want to spend more time with him. But being in food industry or restaurant owner, I will never get to see him,
Mhm.
because I'll be working when he's off, weekends, Christmas, New Year. So I go to Google again, as you do, and I ask Google, okay, Google, I'm starting a new family and I want to change career. Most career in the UK. So I said, okay, I'm going to be an accountant. So I started studying accounting, but nothing would go in my head, because of all the damage I'd done working those long hours, and busy lifestyle, stress, and everything else. So I understand that, okay, I have to work on myself first before I can change career or learn something new. So next 2 years I spent working on myself. So I got heavily involved into personal growth, studied psychology, neuroscience, biohacking, meditation, basically anything to improve myself. And what that did was I managed to finish a 3-year qualification in 9 months. And that's when I realized I found something. My friends started noticing this, and they would say jokingly, like they would say, man, you're not sleeping because you've got a young family. You're running a full-time business and you're still finishing these qualifications in record time. They would jokingly say, man, you're a superhuman. And that's when the idea of superhuman in you came in my head, because I
Brilliant.
realized I'm as ordinary as they come. So if they can see a superhuman in me, then maybe there's a superhuman in all of us.
Mm.
So I initially got a domain superhumaninu.com and started just blogging on it. Started working for a big four accounting firm, changed careers, sold the restaurant. And in 2020 in lockdown, that when I had a bit more time, I wrote and published my first book, which you can probably see in the background.
Yeah.
The Power Within, which went on to be a US Amazon bestseller, and that's when more people started approaching me. And in December 2020, I started giving unofficial advice, mainly to friends and family. They got results. I enjoyed it. So in December 2020, I realized this could be a full-time career. So I left my comfortable corporate job to become a full-time coach, and loving it. Yeah, it's been great since then.
Do you know it's such an interesting journey that you've had, but it also shows what you spoke about before is about the mindset that you had as well, Anurag. And I think it's you talk about that good karma, bad karma, but it's actually changing the thought patterns of that positive mental attitude and moving forward
Mhm,
and moving the stones, moving the obstacles to one side. And one of the big things you mentioned there was
mhm,
self-development, was personal development, getting yourself in the right place,
mhm.
not the business. It was actually getting your mindset in the right place.
Yes.
Was that one? The next question I normally ask
Mhm.
is the challenges and achievements that we have in business. Was that the biggest challenge for you and also the largest achievement that you got in your life, in the family and getting that mindset in the right place?
Yes, I think everything you have in your life is created by the mind. Yeah. Our health, our happiness, our relationships, our business, everything, like the way we communicate, the way we lead, everything is our
Mhm,
ability to use our mind and understand other people's mind or emotions.
mhm.
So I
It's
think,
interesting
yeah,
when yeah,
getting
sorry.
getting that, getting a hold of that, and the ability to manage it is, I think, key for everything.
Yeah,
Because everything else you can learn.
yeah. I think it's right. It's decompartmentalizing what you're actually doing and how you want to do it, and the process, that the building blocks to put in place as well. I think is really important. You mentioned lockdown
Yes.
there as well in 2020, and you've been through those challenges, you've success in those achievements as well, and especially writing blogs to build up the content, the synopsis, really bringing together the portfolio of your book. And I guess that's where it started from the book with some of the blogs. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. Initially, I was just writing blogs, and then uh, that's when when I decided to write the book. It wasn't as difficult as it is for more people because I already done the work through blogs
yeah.
and through reflections.
Done the groundwork on that one. So just
Yes.
going to go back on that as well. The next part of it really is looking at that adaptation that you had. Now, you start writing a book in lockdown. We're in
Hmm.
lockdown. We're being kept away. We're working on an online virtual world as such. I'm always
Hmm.
interested to hear this, especially people who created a business within lockdown. How did you adapt yourself? Because coaching is very one-on-one. It's being in person. How did you bridge that and how did you adapt that for your business working in lockdown?
Yes. So two things. One is, yes, initially I did think that it will be difficult to have that connection virtually, uh, which I was surprised that it wasn't. I still prefer face to face, but I have got clients who only see me virtually, and we can still get that connection. So I was surprised that it wasn't. When you can create presence or awareness within the room, and we do things to do that. Um, yeah, it is possible. The second thing is for that is because I started my business in lockdown, I did not have to adapt to like the lockdown. I had to adapt when things got normal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how was that transition of going from online to being, as you class, as normal back to
Mhm.
in person? Was that hard to start with? Did you feel a bit uncomfortable doing that?
No, not at all, actually. One thing that I felt uncomfortable, which we'll talk about, because I think is one of the other things that I've overcome about, along with my many other things. But the one-to-one side of meetings, I think it was even better. Like, so you enjoyed being in the room with the person, so it wasn't that difficult. What I found difficult was networking events initially. I come from a family where Self-discipline is higher in priority, and self-expression is lower in priority. So that's why speaking to people was not natural to me. Um, and Even when I was doing public speaking, like when you go into networking and you're trying to sell yourself, or you're talking to a group of people, I one to one, like if it's only I'm only talking to one person, it is okay. But group, and by group or public, I mean three or more people, right?
Mhm.
I will literally shake from inside, sweat, everything. Um, until one day I was standing on a stage because I realized that one thing I was good at is I knew that I have to get uncomfortable in order to eventually become comfortable with something.
Yeah.
So I would still push myself. But one day I was standing in front of people and talking, and I realized that, okay, why am I scared? Why is this happening to me? Uh, I'm not doing anything different than talking to one person. I'm still doing the same thing. Then why this response? And then the answer that I got was, I was thinking, because if it's only one person, I can read the person, yeah, and see, okay, what they're thinking, and then I can change things accordingly. Pause, stop, not speak, let them speak, whatever it is. But when I'm talking to more than one person, I cannot read them. So what I was worried about is what they think about me. What if they think I'm rubbish? I won't be able to read that in
Wow.
a group. Uh, But then I soon realized that what I think, they think, is my thinking, not theirs.
Hmm.
They would never tell me what they think. I'm just guessing what they think. So when it's my thinking, so I'm actually worried about what I think they think, that's in my control. So they can think whatever they want, but I can choose to think that they think I'm awesome. Because if I think that they think I'm rubbish, then I feel nervous. If I think they think I'm awesome, I feel confident. So which thinking would I choose? I choose a
It's a good point.
thinking that supports my feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Do-
that shift actually made me, and later on, so I learned a lot from life experience, which later on I became a psychologist. I studied psychology, and I learned that, okay, these things have got names to it, which I learned I without knowing that there is so what I described to you just now, there's a term in psychology for that, which I got to know after I learned it, which is called cognitive emotive loop, which
right.
is thoughts. Yeah, thoughts create feelings, feelings create behavior, behavior gives the evidence to prove the initial thought right. So in my example, I think they think I'm rubbish, creates the feeling of nervousness, creates the behavior of lack of confidence. They actually start thinking I'm rubbish. I just proved my initial thought right. If
Hmm.
I start thinking I think they think I'm awesome, I feel more confident. I behave more confident. They actually think this guy is not bad. I just gave evidence to prove my initial thought right.
I like the way that thought process goes with that. And it's interesting, again, from what you said, I'm very surprised actually that you felt very uncomfortable being in a room for networking in a group of people. But you embraced that and came over that because you have to, something I talk about quite a lot is that you have to be feeling uncomfortable to get comfortable in the zones. You only get through that growth period when you do feel uncomfortable with the
Mhm.
environments that you're working in. And I think that's such an important part. But also, what I like what you just mentioned
Yes.
there is the pre-perception of what people are thinking. Instead, you have this internal monologue that you talk to yourself out of doing something, or you're already making your mind up of what you think other people are thinking about you on the stage or speaking to people. But actually, they're probably
Mhm.
okay. They're thinking in your
Mhm.
mindset. They're thinking in
Mhm.
your same terminology when you're chatting to them. It's a really good point on that one.
Yes. Yes.
So, so
And yes.
go on. You're going to say something there, Anurag. I stopped you there. So carry on, my friend.
Sorry, your voice just froze suddenly. What did you say there? Was there a question?
No, it's just you're going to say something carrying on from the thought process and the mindset and being uncomfortable to be comfortable
Yes.
itself. So yeah,
Yes. So I was talking about, because you mentioned confidence there,
yeah,
and getting uncomfortable till we become comfortable. I think the mistake that most of us make is we confuse self-esteem and self-confidence. So
Good point.
self-confidence or confidence comes from stacking up the evidence.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
start doing something, you won't be confident at it. You got to accept that when you start doing something new, it's okay to not be confident at it. You do it, you stack up the evidence of doing it over a period of time, and you get confident.
Yeah.
What you need, though, is self-esteem, not
Mm-hmm.
confidence. Confidence will come eventually once you've done it enough number of times. Self-esteem is, I can do it. Confidence is, I've done it.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I like that analogy in the way you look at that self-esteem, and then the confidence comes through practice in my eyes as well. It's that repetition, keep going, getting better at it, and then your self-esteem will increase as well from there. So
Yeah.
thanks for sharing that, Anna. I really appreciate it. We've got Eddie Sand. He's online with us on YouTube on the Revitalise networking channel on YouTube. So thanks for joining us, Eddie. He's based over in Florida, over the other side of the pond. Thanks for joining us there, and thanks for your little comments you just dropped in. For everybody who's watching on LinkedIn and on YouTube, I'm just going to drop into the YouTube feed. It might drop into the LinkedIn as well. I'm going to drop in Anurag's websites, one for superhumaninyu.com and also Amhawal. That's on there as well, amhwal.com as well. There's two websites for you to click on. And if you're watching on LinkedIn, I will save and share them in the comments after this interview today as well with Anurag and this sort of Revitalise Meets. If you got any questions, please feel free to share them in there as well, if you don't mind. It'd be great to see you in there. So please share your questions or anything you got on LinkedIn and on YouTube. Eddie's saying he's on LinkedIn as well at the same time. He's got two screens going at the same time. Well done, Eddie. Next for me, really, Anurag, is I like to ask all my guests, what are their top tips of advice from their industry, from their sector, golden tips of advice that you'd like to share with the online audience, either about business or from your sector? What would you like to share with us? What would be your top tips for people watching and listening today?
Yeah. So one of the things that as business owners we fail to focus a lot of attention on is ourselves, right? So what we were talking about before, the work that I do with my clients is focused around two things: being the person they need to become, and doing then the things they need to do. Um, Often it's about doing without focusing too much about being the person they need to become. Now, you give the same strategy to two different people, and they will get different results because of the kind of person they are. So the importance of working on yourself, the importance of personal growth, especially if you're a business owner, um, I think that's the most important thing you can do in order to grow and develop. Because the way you think is the way you act, as we're talking about, and that's why what creates the results.
Yeah, no, totally. And what would be like the other two or areas that you'll cover as well? So we'll talk about working on you. What would be like
Yes,
2 and 3? If you could share a couple extra tips for us.
yes. So when we're growing, so this is more technical. I think um, business is complicated. Because there's so much noise, how to grow your business has become too complicated, because somebody's saying do cold emails, somebody's talking about doing 3 posts a day on social media or anything. So I like to simplify things. There's basically three things that you need to focus on: whether you want to grow the business, or when if you're starting a business. So every time you want to scale, whether it's a startup or you're already at a level and you got to a level where you cannot grow anymore and you want to scale from there, there's three things to focus on. The first one is the brand. And in order to build the brand, there's three things, as we know, we got to work on, which is know, like, and trust. And there's number of ways to build know, like, and trust. You got to say what's most effective for you. Slow down to go fast. Slow down and see, okay, how would the who are my ideal clients? How can I be visible in front of them, but also gain their like and trust? No, if there was a scale, I would show you. Usually there's a threshold, and we got to meet the threshold of like and trust. So somebody can like you so much that they don't need to trust you, and they will still do business with you.
Yeah.
And somebody can trust you so much that they don't need to like you, but they will still do business with you. So we got
Yeah.
to aim for that like and trust and build the brand first. The next step, because until you build the brand, all your sales efforts, you basically be wasting lots of resources if you haven't done the groundwork yet. If people don't know, like, and trust you, you can go out doing cold calls, but you would not get the conversion that you're looking for. So you got to build the brand
Yeah.
first. The next thing you want to work on is people and systems, and that's the second circle. So you want to have whatever level you want to scale at, you want to be prepared to take the sales in. So you got to have the right people at the right place. Uh, look at if they have got the right skills to deliver, and have you got systems in place. And then there's the last circle where you look for the revenue. And when it comes to revenue, there's again two things that are important: effort and effectiveness. So I will always encourage my clients to have two goals: one for effort and one for effectiveness. Because usually what people say is, oh, I tried posting online, but it doesn't work for me. And I would ask, okay, how long did you post? And they would say 2 weeks. So that wasn't enough. You got to have effort goal.
No.
Maybe depending on what the business is, and we can talk about it, but maybe about 3 months if you're posting online. And then you also have to have effectiveness goals, which is every week you're measuring, okay, did last week, if I reached out to 5 people, how many of those converted into meetings and how many of those converted into customers? And have a sales process where, so I do a 4-step sales process, which is connect, invite, serve, and propose. The reason for having that sales process is, again, you can measure the effectiveness, what part of the process is not effective. And when you can measure that, you can improve that. Yeah. So
Love that,
that's
Anurag. I mean,
three
I've actually
three.
just typed that up. No, totally. I've just dropped that into the YouTube saving as well. So you'll see that in the comments as well. And then Anurag's top tips is working on you, but building your brand, people and systems in your business, effort and systems in your business, and effort and effectiveness. Focus on the long-term goals, but also don't forget about the weekly wins. Right? That's something I've just really brought that together quite sharp in what you've just shared in there. Thanks for sharing that, Anurag. It's always nice to get an insight into our sort of golden top tips from our guests. We've got a wee smorgasbord, I love using that word, of many things that we use with many of the guests over the last few months as well. So thank you for sharing that, Anurag. Thank you very much. We talk about self-care and we talk about working on you, working on yourself individually. I see a lot of you usually on LinkedIn taking time out for you and the family. We talk about
Mm-hmm.
personal development. How much time do you dedicate to personal development for you? Let's say on a weekly basis. How much time do you dedicate for personal development from your perspective?
Yes. So great question. I'm glad you asked that. I spend around 1 hour every day, 7 days a week, on myself.
Wow.
And that includes working out, meditating, a bit of journaling. Some days, one of more, one less, but yeah, around 1 to 1.5 hours every day. And people sometimes tell me that, "Oh, I don't have time. I can't find time for it." And that's when I like to use the analogy, which I know Stephen Bartlett uses sometimes as well, is if you had a table and there were lots of things on the table, if you remove this, everything stays. If you remove this, everything stays. But if you remove the table, nothing stays.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So subconsciously, these people, everybody knows that. So if I ask them, what's the most important thing in your life? They will say health, but they're trying to find time for it. What we need to do is we need to schedule time for it and then find time for everything else. And by health, I don't just mean your physical health, but your mental health, because a lot of it comes from mindset. So for me, the work, even with Amwell, when I go into organizations and I do the work, a lot of it is about building resilience. It's not so much about coping mechanisms, but it's about building that resilience. Because we all know that growth happens outside our comfort zone. But if going outside our comfort zone is affecting our well-being, then we cannot grow.
Mm.
So if growth and well-being have to coexist, we need to build resilience for us and in our teams.
Yeah. That's so important. I think it's really interesting. You dedicate an hour to your daily routine, and I think it broke slightly. But is that in the morning or is that in an afternoon? When do you dedicate that 1 hour to work on you? Is that first thing in the morning?
Yes, first thing in the morning, because it's the most important thing.
Yeah,
If
I think
if I run out of time, I can skip something else, but at least that's been taken care of.
yeah. No, I agree with that one as well. And
I
thanks for sharing that.
love a quote from Gandhi, which kind of puts things into perspective for this for me, because I like keeping these quotes to put things in perspective. I'll share two quotes actually. So the first one is, and they both come from Gandhi. The first one is, he said that today I am going to have a very busy day, so I'm going to meditate 2 hours instead of one.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it's a busy day, I need to be extra focused, extra calm,
Yeah,
extra
yeah,
present. Yeah.
yeah.
And the second quote is gratitude, because so to live a good quality life, we need two things. And sometimes people fail to see the separation into these, between those two things: happiness and fulfillment. Happiness
Mm-hmm.
comes from gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
Fulfillment comes from direction and purpose and growth.
Yeah.
So gratitude is a perspective, and this quote helps me put things in perspective, which is, I cried because I had no shoes until I met a man with no feet.
Like that.
Mm.
Two great quotes again. Love that
Yeah.
one. Thanks,
Mm.
Anurag. Thanks very much. We've got a question from Eddie as well. Eddie's put a question on LinkedIn there, and he's put on there, I'd like to hear what Anurag can share about self-sabotage and imposter syndrome. What's your thoughts on self-sabotage and imposter syndrome? For the question from Eddie there, he's on YouTube and on the LinkedIn channel.
Yeah. Yeah. So self-sabotage is very real. We are, so too big topic to cover, but I'll try to simplify it. Our brain, and basically I'm simplifying a full 1 year program in neuroscience into like couple of minutes. So oversimplification this is, but our brain is basically mainly made up of three main areas. One is our primitive instinct, which is sometimes in the book Chimp Paradox he calls it chimp. The other is the human, or the logical side of it, and then there's supercomputer, the weakest of all those three things. So our subconscious mind, the primitive mind, the chimp mind, and the human. The weakest is the human, the logical part of us, and that's why it's hard to make changes, because we self-sabotage. And where does that self-sabotage come from? It comes from the subconscious.
Yeah.
Our brain is designed to keep us safe and not to make us happy and successful. So every time we try to go outside our comfort zone, our brain thinks, oh, that's not safe. I'm safe where I'm comfortable. Whatever is familiar is comfortable. So subconsciously we keep sabotaging ourselves until, so there's a way to overcome that, and that is, so I say change happens in three ways. We learn, so information, you learn something new, you take action. Emotion, you feel something new, that's more and you're tapping into your primitive mind. So emotion, you feel something new and you take action. But the third and the most powerful one, because that's when you tap into your subconscious, is identity. You shift your identity, you start seeing yourself as a different person. And when you're a different person, you act differently.
Mm-hmm.
So the way to stop that self sabotage is, don't try to be. Create a mental image of what kind of person do you need to be in order to achieve the goals that you want to achieve. And then start seeing yourself as that person. The
Yeah.
whole game is, I say, the game is only happening now. Life is only happening now. Nothing's happening outside this moment. Sometimes people think change is hard, but it's not. Don't have to chase change forever. You just have to act like that person in this moment. No,
Thanks for
that's it.
sharing that. Hope that answered your question, Eddie, for us as well. From that, thank you for sharing that with us, Anurag. And it was great to get a question online as well that came from there. And if you are listening on the YouTube channel, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We've got many more interviews coming up, especially like Anurag and many others over the next few months as well. And Anurag, what's next for you? What's the next sort of, if you were look to cast your mind forward for the next sort of 6 months up until the end of the year and the beginning of 2025? What's next around the corner for you in your business journey?
Yes. So a lot of focus is on the second business, so not so much on Superhuman in You. Superhuman in You, I'm looking for more speaking opportunities, because as you know, my business is driven by just one mission, and that is to positively impact 1 billion lives. That's
Yeah.
why I write books as well. So speaking opportunities allow me to impact more lives. So that's where the focus is for Superhuman You, more speaking opportunities. I'm almost full for my clients in Superhuman You, so very good place to be at. uh, Amwell, Aberdeen Mental Health, Wellbeing and Leadership Academy. That's which I'm growing at the moment. So any businesses with 10 or more employees, um, I can help them. So the goal in 2025 is to at least grow the business by 100% where it is just now. A very ambitious goal, but I'm sure we can achieve that.
You can indeed. You can indeed. And for everybody who's watching and listening today, who would be a great, if someone wanted to give you a business introduction today, you mentioned the corporate clients, who would be the best business introduction for you today? Whoever's watching and listening today, how can they introduce somebody that's going to really ricochet, send your business to the next level? Who would that be? Or what
Yes.
would that be?
So yeah. So if it's an owner managed business, then the business owners of and where the business has 10 or more employees, because that's where I can create the biggest impact. If it's a larger business, then people leaders or HR managers would be a good introduction.
And would that be just based in the Aberdeen area, or would that be externally as well?
Anywhere. I'm possibly going to deliver some training later part of this year in Middle East. So yeah, any part of the globe.
I'm actually just going to put in there, not just locally, but it's a word that I use quite regularly. It can be globally, because I think that's what we're living in right now. Anurag, we're living in this virtual hybrid world that we've got an opportunity to really cover both areas. And thanks, Lee Yates has just joined us as well. I like that one in regards of the question that's been put in there from Eddie as well. So I'll even share that on the screen on there.
My family is spread across the globe as well.
That's it. Perfect. Brilliant. Anurag, thank you so much for joining me today. It was great to get an insight into how you work and where that business has came from, but also get an insight of actually what you're looking for and what's the next steps. We sometimes forget about what we're aiming to achieve in the next sort of 6 to 12 months. With some of the business owners, we're quite frightened to share that with everybody that's out there. Would you agree with that?
Yes. I think one of the challenges we have I was speaking to somebody this morning about this, when we business owners, we go out to sell our business. I think we got to sell it to ourselves first before we sell it to anybody else, and that's the challenge which most people have. They think that, how can I ask that price? And the problem is not that they can't ask that price. Problem is they haven't sold it to themselves. If they were selling a Ferrari for £10,000, they wouldn't have any problem selling it to more people.
Like that as well. Thanks very much, Anurag. Thank you. That's a great way of finishing off this actual interview with Anurag as well, about Ferraris or Lamborghinis and cars just in general that we can look at as well. So thank you, Anurag. Thank you to everybody who's watched us. Please, Anurag, thank you very much for really joining me today and investing your time and sharing this on the interview. I really do appreciate you coming along to join us today.
It's been a pleasure, Lee. Always a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you.
Thank you. And for everybody who's been watching and listening today on the YouTube channel, please don't forget to subscribe to the Revitalise Network and YouTube channel for many more interviews coming up in the schedule, not just this month, but all the way through to September. We've got many people I'm bringing along to join us on LinkedIn live at 5, and also on the YouTube channel. So don't forget to subscribe. If you've got any questions, please reach out to me by sharing a comment, or just send me a message through LinkedIn if you feel appropriate to do so. Massive thank you to Anurag for joining me this week today, but we do have a special edition Revitalise Meets happening this Thursday at 9 o'clock in the morning. It's going to be our next one on the YouTube channel and on LinkedIn Live at 9 a.m. and I'll be joined by the Elevate 360 team of Steve Lees, Tony Gordon and Suzanne McDonald, who will be joining me this Thursday. So stay tuned for that. We'll be coming to you live again as always. Thanks again from me, from Anurag, to you for joining us and investing your time. As always, happy connecting and have a phenomenal week ahead, everybody. Take care We shall see you all again on the Business Focus podcast. That is Revitalise Meets very, very soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye for now.